All right, quick mic check. And Mr. Chairman, we're ready to roll.
All right, at 6:31, I hereby call the City of Riverside Board of Zoning Appeals to order. Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Carpenter?
Here.
Mr. Cron?
Here.
Mr. Welling?
Here.
Mr. Timbrook?
Here. Has everyone had a chance to review the agenda for tonight?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
With no objections or corrections, the agenda stands approved. And then have we had a chance to review the meetings from the March meeting? The minutes from the March meeting?
I have.
Good. Any corrections or objections? Okay, hearing none, they stand approved. Okay, well, with that, we get to jump right into our first case. So just a reminder, please adjust the microphone and speak directly into it when making public comments. And would the city like to let us know what's going on? BZA case 24-2 5900 Helenwood Drive.
Yes. Before I get on, I'll make my oath for the record. I, Naya Holt, affirm that the testimony I'm about to give before the Board of Zoning Appeals is correct to the best of my knowledge. That's 5200 Springfield Street for the address. Again, this is case number BZA 24002. And this case is involving a fence on the corner lot, a 6-foot privacy fence. This is a variance for the height of that fence and a waiver to permit a solid board privacy fence in the front yard. The permitted height in the front yard is 4 feet, and this would increase it by 2 feet, which is why it is before you. Here is an aerial of the site. It is outlined in blue. As you can see here, it is right there on the corner of Helenwood and Yorktown. Now, this is a site plan, but you do have a revised site plan before you, and I will let the applicant speak more to that. Here is the front of the subject site, the property to the west, property to the north, and it's across Helenwood. This is the properties to the south, so looking down Yorktown. Now, this is the area where the proposed fence will go. You'll see several pictures at several different angles. And I'll just go through those photos and stop me if you would like to see one closer or have any questions.
I have a question.
Of course.
Okay. So, going back, is this the back, this is considered her backyard?
So in our code, anything between the street and the facade is considered a front yard. Now, she may use this as a backyard or side yard, but our code calls this a front yard.
So, being a corner lot, it's unique that we have 2 front yards.
So yes, all corner lots would have 2 front yards.
And I know that's very similar in a lot of surrounding communities.
That's right. Mhm.
Even when 59 Hollywood is addressed as the address, we're still keeping 2 front yards.
That's right. Mhm.
What is the setback on a fence on a front yard?
So there isn't a setback, it just has to be out of the right-of-way, unless it's granted permission.
So it
from-
doesn't have to be back to the facade of the house?
If it's along the facade of the house, then it can be up to that 6 feet. If it's in the front yard, it can be a max of that 4 feet.
Well, you mean in terms of actually being set back
Set
from
Back
the
to
right-of-way?
Correct.
So it can go up to the right-of-way,
Even on a front yard?
in the front yard.
So if this was 59 Helenwood, it could go within 11 and a half foot to the back of the curb.
Yep, as long as it's out of the right-of-way,
Clarify.
up to that 4 feet.
Okay.
And so this is where originally there was a proposed encroachment to the right-of-way. There was a discussion with the service department. They were okay with that pending a decision from the Board of Zoning Appeals, this body here. So just given our code and looking at the requirements that we have, we do not recommend approval. there is no other fences like this in the immediate area. There is the option to remove the concrete pad, and the spirit and intent would not be observed. So granting a variance, these are the criteria you have to consider. Of course, this is in your staff report, but just for those at home and in the audience, to remind them what is the criteria. I'll leave this on the screen. Those are highlighted are the ones that I mentioned in the staff report and earlier. And of course, there's the other ones as well, whether there's another option that is open to the applicant. Now, the second part of this case is the waiver. We're also recommending denial of that, where the strict application of the regulations would deprive them of reasonable use of land. No, there's also those alternatives that could be used. Apparently, the applicant is proposing one of those, so those are staff's recommendations. Are there any questions?
Can you go back to the recommendation on the waiver, or on the variance, back? Here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right, I misunderstood the first time I read the second bullet point. Applicant could move the concrete pad, but constructing the fence to align with the facade of the house makes it in line with the house, so then they can have it in that yard, even if it's front yard.
Yeah,
Okay.
so what we were talking about before,
Yeah.
if it was aligned with the house, then it could be that 6 foot.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Ms. McVicar? Okay. Oh, can you step up to the podium, please?
We'll hold it,
What?
we'll get, let's
Oh,
finish
I'm
with the city
sorry.
first,
Okay.
and I'm sorry.
I'm
Let's
jumping
finish
If
with
you're
the
done.
city first,
If
and
you're
then we'll get to
done.
the public portion.
Naya?
Yes.
With that second bullet point that Reese pulled out,
Mhm.
so if the fence was in line with the facade, then it could be 6 foot, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
see
Anything
the best
beyond
picture.
that cannot exceed 4 foot.
That's right.
It's talking strictly of the variance right now.
Yes.
Okay.
Cool. Any other questions for the city? No? Okay. All right, well, with that, at 6:38, I'm going to open the public portion. The applicant, I do believe, is here, so Ms. McVicker, would you like to approach the microphone? And I believe we have the oath up there for you as well, if you can read that, please.
Okay. I, Tammy McVicker, 5900 Helenwood Drive.
Thank you.
Affirm that the testimony I am about to give before the Board of Zoning Appeals is correct and to the best of my knowledge.
Okay, please, maybe you want to start with the updated map.
Oh, sure. And this really isn't updated. If you would be so kind to put that one picture up of the concrete pad, I'll show you when it comes up. This isn't exactly the best. Okay, like that's a good picture. So see the concrete pad. When we moved in there, we had a permit and we got that built and the city approved it and everything. So what I wanted to kind of show was in your picture, at the end of my driveway where that little red and yellow car is right there, that's behind those bushes is where there's a privacy fence right now. Okay, it's like in the back of our house. So from that fence, we wanted to go straight back and then just come around the basketball court. So like all this grass right here, none of this would be affected per se. We're not wanting to go to the street right here. Like right here is where that little car is. So if we just came out maybe a little bit, went straight down, and then just that back corner of the concrete pad, and those bushes that are towards the street, those have been there since we moved in 2004. Those are like 10-foot trees that we would take down. Tony, my son-in-law, is here with me. He's a construction person, so he could take those trees out, and then we would just, so the 6-foot fence would be lower than those trees, but it would just go around the back of the concrete pad, and then there's actually an old fence through the tree lines back there that they must have got a permit for that's kind of broken down. It's a smaller fence, but that must be the property line. So we were just going to bring that right around and make a square. And then for the grandkids and little dog, and they play basketball back there. It's a really nice concrete pad with a hoop. And then I wouldn't have to worry if there's a 4-foot fence for the ball to go over the fence. It would just be more secure and more privacy. So that's why I met with the city and came here and said, what can I do? And then I paid the $200 some just to have you guys look at it and see if there's anything that we could work out. So I don't know.
Okay. Do we have Naya this picture on here? Okay, so we're no longer talking about having a fence coming in front of the garage.
That is correct.
Okay, so the fence would stem from the corner?
And I could go up here and just point. to
Okay,
it.
sure.
That might be easier. So here is the side of my house, and this is my driveway right here. So
Mhm.
my current fence goes like right here, here, and here, so that's enclosed right now. You just can't see it
Right.
because of the trees. So I just want to come off this fence right here and go down, so all that grass would still be there, and then come down to the basketball court, and then go like that, and then around here, so it's more secure and safe, and then go back to this fence that's already there. And our neighbors are right here, that's their property over on this side. So we would just go up here and then cross it back where the fence is right now.
So
it's kind of unique.
it would end up looking like,
So is it
it would
like
come
this?
down from the, like this corner of the,
Yes, sir.
where the driveway
Yes,
is.
sir.
This is what
Maybe
we're
it's about
talking
a little
about?
different.
yeah, so basically, it would grab this for you.
Okay. I can't
I'm gonna
see it
doodle
all,
on
I'm
this.
sorry.
I know that you're fine, no,
So
it's hard to
she's
see.
talking about bringing it down straight from the corner of, like the garage.
Oh, of the garage.
And then bring it out around this,
Okay.
Because we already
the
have a
concrete
fence
pad.
right here that comes out, a privacy fence. You just can't see it because.
That's what she's.
Now, going back to the zoning, have we ever had it come from the garage? Isn't it? Aren't the fences supposed to play off of the house?
And it is off the house. I mean, that is my house right there.
This would be fine.
That would be fine?
Mhm.
Okay, and not here?
Yeah, so,
Okay.
between, I wish I could
The
use
problem, I
You can,
think,
you can, you gotta go over to this.
Oh.
with the
okay.
corner lots is
Okay.
that,
So between here and here, that would still be
Yes, that would all
front
be
yard.
grass. All this right here would be
So
white,
if
just
it's
like it is,
coming
except for
back
we're taking the
here,
trees out.
Then it could be 6 foot.
Then it would be like, then, yeah, so if it was
Okay.
back there.
So anything
Okay.
straight back here,
Well, what do you do then about the concrete pad?
yeah.
Yeah, so that doesn't completely alleviate the need for a variance because it still is in the front yard.
Because you'd still have to come out beyond the front
Beyond
building
the
line
con-
to get around the concrete pad, right?
Right.
yes.
So you would-
that's
she would
the-
still
you
need a
the
variance.
if she's coming around.
But instead, it's just, it's encroaching less, right? So that's, instead of being in the front yard from the very beginning over there by the house, it's only where it goes around the.
Right,
pad.
just around there, because, I mean, to be honest, that would cost a lot of money to break up all that concrete and redo that, where it's a wonderful concrete basketball thing for the kids to use. It would just be at the tip, right around that side, going back up.
Okay.
I have a question in regards to the same picture that's up there now. You've got a notation there of 12 inches off the back property line or off the side. And just out of curiosity, why do you intend to hold that 12 inches in? Not that that's part
Oh,
of the
why
variance or-
take those trees down?
Yeah.
Oh, well, was it Kevin? I talked to him on the phone, because he was explaining some things. He said it'd be nice if they were out, because when he plows, or whoever plows, they kind of get in his way. We don't have to take them down, but we were just saying, if you guys felt like there needed to be more exposure, or because I'm putting a fence down that way, we could take the trees out, but they're way higher than a fence would be.
So Ms. McVicker, then in the back.
Oh, the back?
So where it goes against your neighbor's property line back there.
Right.
You've marked that it would be 12 inches off. And I think
Right.
Mr. Walling was just asking.
Oh, okay.
why.
So there is like a fence back there. It's kind of broken. It's back there. So we would just have to cut some of the trees down to put the fence up through that tree line. Not all of the trees, but some of the trees, just to get the fence up.
Or maybe another way of asking this is, where this is noted here at 12 inches?
Yes.
Are you indicating there that you're going 12 inches inside your property line?
Is that what we're doing, Tony?
What does that 12 inches mean, I guess, is what we're wondering.
Or maybe our neighbor knows. Do you know?
There's an existing fence that we were just gonna follow, because I believe that was the property line that,
Because it was there when we bought the house.
So it'll be inside your
so
property
yeah,
line
it's
then?
not really.
It's inside the property line.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not on their yard. And yeah, there's pretty much space between that fence in your yard, right?
I don't know.
Okay.
That fence, that split rail, I think, is your property. It was there when we bought the house, and it didn't match anything that we had, but it
Okay.
kind of matched landscaping, but we bought a house.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, so,
I would prefer it, if it's on my property line, directly on my property line, I'm cool with that.
Okay, I appreciate that. Yeah, but based on what we know to be true, where that fence is when we bought the house, that was the people that we bought it, the Barthelomy's lived there before, they had that fence up in that shed and everything. So it is inside our property line, to answer your question. So 12 inches.
So the trees, I'm switching.
Sure, no worries, yeah.
I'm sorry. The trees in front of the basketball hoop, those are technically overflowing and in the right-of-way as well.
The trees on, going up these trees right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, those right there are.
It's not, they're not really trees, it's like a bush.
Bushes.
They were there. They were there. They hang over, yeah.
Yeah, they hang
I will- Okay.
I mean, I don't want to put you guys in a pickle or anything, but it was just worth, asking to meet with Naya and saying, what are my options here? And it would just, and my daughter just had a new baby, 9 days old, and it's like the puppy's there, and it just would be so nice for all the kids to play basketball and not have the balls going over a 4-foot fence and not have to remove the concrete and just secure the area for more privacy is basically what I was requesting, for the family.
So can I switch gears then a little bit? So we've been talking about the variance mostly so far. So then and I know they're intertwined, but then the waiver is on the solid fence, right?
Correct.
Versus
The 4-foot.
non-solid fence,
Mhm.
a
Right.
porous fence. So can you talk to why you want or need a solid fence
Sure.
there? instead?
If we had a solid fence going all the way around, then the little dog could run around the yard and be safe, and nothing else could jump in the yard and out of the yard. The kids, when they're playing basketball, if the ball went over a 4-foot fence into the court, they had to go around the gate or jump the fence to get it, and that's a safety issue for me. If it was a 6-foot fence, then everybody's more secure, and the ball's not likely to go over a 6-foot fence as opposed to a 4-foot fence. And the kids are younger. I've got 7 grandkids, and, just the chances of them climbing the 4-foot fence or, doing things like that. I've got some boys, and just the 6-foot fence would be more secure and safe for the family to enjoy activities in their backyard.
And a solid opaque fence versus something like a chain link fence, or like something that has slats that you can see through. Can you talk about the difference in those two things?
Well, I would just like to
For you.
put the lumber fence up where it's secure and solid and that nothing could get through in and out.
Privacy fence, right? Like a backyard, right?
Yeah, just like a
That's
backyard.
good,
Like
'cause
Tony was on Twin Oaks and he got a permit and stuff and put what I'm talking about in his backyard was great, worked out wonderfully.
Right, because essentially that front yard, as our code treats it, that's what it calls it, as a front
Right.
yard, right? Is essentially part of your back or side yard.
Correct. It's just like a different situation. Like, I know the front yard is really my front yard. You go out my front door, and that's Helenwood. But this, we always consider the backyard, but I know what you guys are saying, because that's your code. It's a corner lot.
Right, that's just the initial reading of it. Is
Right, yes,
So your front door is on Helenwood,
correct.
and then,
My back door, my sliding glass door is in Yorktown Court.
what we're using as your backyard, right? Wood is on Yorktown,
That's correct. And that's the area that I'm asking to fence in.
and that's where you get a sticky situation, because technically her front is
Right.
Helenwood, and her back,
Is
also
Yorktown.
the front.
which is,
And in my brain, my side yard is going up Yorktown, but a lot of that side yard coming back to the concrete wouldn't even be affected with the fence or the variance
Okay.
until we get to the corner part of the basketball court.
Okay. I have another question, something we haven't talked about yet, but I think you'll be able to answer. So sometimes when we're looking at corner lots and we're looking at putting up fences, one of the things we're concerned about is being able to see around
Yes.
a curve or around a turn. Can you talk to whether you think that'll be a concern or
Sure.
not?
My mind says there's no concern, and if any of the neighbors here think it would be a concern, let me know. But when you go up the court and you look, there's no obstructed view. And like I said, the trees that are there are 10 foot, and there's usually a van parked there anyway, and nobody's having any problems at all. So my mind is just, that's shorter than the trees, and we don't have a problem getting in and out of our driveway, and the neighbors shouldn't have any problem getting in and out of their driveway with it just going up 6 foot at that point.
and that is off of a cul-de-sac,
Yes, ma'am.
so there's
We're the
no-
last house going at the bottom of the court.
There's no really reason to turn into that
No,
block unless you
no,
live
just
in
right up the
there.
street, that's correct.
So
And when you
that's-
pull into the court, the fence wouldn't even be there at all. You pull into the street. It's not till you go up the street when you would even see my fence on the left.
Because we're going to
See that.
back that up.
That's right.
Okay,
Okay, thank you. That was good.
You're welcome.
thank you.
I just have one comment before you sit down. I'm always a proponent to make sure a survey's done, not that it needs to be a part of the variance, before you install the fence, because it could save you now, and then it could also save you at any time you might sell the property.
Okay.
This comment.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Any other questions for the applicant?
One question here is, around the basketball court, what was the size of that basketball court? Did we have measurements?
I think you guys had it. Didn't you have the person that worked here before? Tony, do you have any idea?
Didn't look regulation.
Oh, we had to get a permit.
30 by 30?
Okay. All right.
Any other questions for the
Yes,
applicant?
and I put that in there because I had two boys growing up.
Yeah.
And so we're like, oh, they'll get so much use out of this. So they played on it. Now I got the next generation.
Yep.
So, okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. That was the only speaker format. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in favor of the application, of the waiver and/or variance? Seeing none, is there anyone here who'd like to speak against the variance or waiver? Sure, please approach. And we've got the oath up there, if you can please read that off for me. And then probably after the fact, have you fill out a speaker form to
Yeah,
make sure we get
I wasn't
your
planning
info.
on speaking, I just wanted to say a little something, something.
It's fine.
I, Leah Newhouse, affirm that the testimony I'm about to give before the Board of Zoning Appeals is correct to the best of my knowledge.
Okay, please.
Is it possible to pull up one of the pictures that shows the end of the court? Because I live on the court.
Okay.
Maybe it's another one. Is that's not the one, yeah, a different picture.
Try
I think
again.
the next one.
No, hold on, sorry.
You're good.
No, this is PowerPoint now. Fine with us. You might have to go up and down. There you go. You
yeah.
wanted the end of the court?
Yeah, showing through. There we go.
Oh, that
That's
one?
the one.
There you go. Okay.
Alrighty, so, and you can pop back to the aerial view too if you want in a minute, but to those of us who live on the end of the court, this is actually a huge blind spot. People park their vehicles on both sides of the street, which might solve the problem, not parking there, I don't know. And people race down this cul-de-sac. And so actually, the only way we can see who's coming is through that spot that you see, that opening. And maybe a clear fence would be okay, because I could still see who's coming, but there have been times where we've walked our dogs, and we're like, whoa, like you have to kind of like run and hide behind one of these parked cars because you can't see who's coming. So I totally understand wanting to have a private backyard, but my only concern would be visibility. I think that it would be really, really like kind of scary to go around this corner all the time. And we do have a lot of court traffic, I think. But I totally understand where they're coming from, but I just wanted to say
Sure,
that
so-
little piece.
So can I ask you a couple questions? So
Sure.
then, the applicant could right now, like you said, they could have a fence that was not opaque, right?
Yeah,
And that was
yeah.
4 feet tall. That would somewhat obstruct the view, right? I mean, you'd still be looking through the fence, right?
Sure.
But
But
it
you could
wouldn't
still see a
completely
vehicle
block it.
coming, probably.
You'd still be able to see it coming.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna run a few more things. Sorry, so then also with it being 4, if it's solid, that still is blocking it, right?
Yeah,
Whether it's
like,
4 feet or 6
if it
feet,
went-
it's still blocking off.
It's a little bit less about this front part for me.
It's about that back
It's
side
that
part,
back
probably.
side,
Okay.
which I understand wanting to have the privacy. It just would
Yeah.
be kind of hard to see through.
Okay.
It's
No,
my
I
only
understand.
concern.
Any other questions or comments for Ms. Newhouse? Thank you. Okay, is there anybody else who'd like to speak against the variance or waiver, and/or waiver? Okay. Does the applicant wish to rebut anything that we heard in the second testimony?
Yeah, and I know some of our neighbors say, make sure those kids are careful, because, like, you're right, there's people that go really fast. I don't know why. You'd think you go extra slow, but at any rate, they do, and we tell the kids, be careful. So we're really, and they made a good point too. I mean, the trees are more, like if those trees were down, that's 10 foot, and my fence is going closer to the basketball court, that there's still that grass that you'd be able to see around before the fence even started. If I, you know what I mean? Like.
Understand.
Okay.
I don't know if that would make any, I would say, no, that may not make any sense.
Is that
Okay.
basketball court corner, is that about 8 to 10 feet from the road?
So the.
About 8 feet.
Because I know Kevin measured, and he said the right-of-way is about 10 feet.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Kevin said that if you guys agreed on this, he would agree on his part, just because he understands the whole circumstance. I don't know if that means anything, but I want to respect everybody's opinions, you know, for safety, obviously. But I still feel like 6 feet is lower than those 10 feet trees, and that might help. I don't know. So,
If it needed to be off a little bit further, off that corner, we could even put a post and then, you know, cut that corner off and put a post, you know, out of the way.
yeah, we talked about that.
Just like cut that corner of the corner off.
Like
If
we,
need be, if you're supposed to be 10 foot off, we can make it 10 foot.
Can you come to the mic so we can catch your?
Yeah, you should swear in too, please.
Oh, yeah, good call.
I, Tony Nuss, affirm that the testimony I am about to give before the Board zoning appeals is correct to the best of my knowledge. So right there where that van is, basically that's kind of the corner of the basketball court, but it's about 8 feet off. So if we need to come further off of the curb, I don't know what the zoning allows, I could put a post in, you know, 10 feet back, and then wherever that 10 feet lands on the other side, around the radius of the curve, to keep it within the allowed parameters, I guess, of the zone. Instead of having to like tear up all the court, I'll just cut off, you know, 4-foot section, and then that'd make it a little easier and cost effective.
and then I was going to say something on that too. When I talked to Kevin, he said, Tammy, if the board authorizes this and I authorize it, just know that like if AES has to come in your yard, you know, because that's the right of way, you know, if you guys authorize that, they'd have to tear that fence down. So we don't see any reason why they'd have to knock the fence down. They could go through the gate if they need to, but they've never had to come in that area of our yard. That was the only thing that we could come up with when I spoke to Kevin about the right of way, would be that issue, but it hasn't been an issue since we've been there.
Okay.
Do we know what the right-of-way is from the back of curb?
Yeah, that's with that 10 feet.
It is 10
Yeah.
for sure? Okay.
Yep.
I think
And
actually
that's-
they tried. I think that's that silver.
Is that what that silver
Yeah.
line is? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Okay,
what was
ROW,
measured
got
and
it.
given
I
to us
see it.
from the service department.
That's my guess. Cool.
I guess my question to Naya is, if anybody ever needed wheelchair accessibility, they would need, and they put in sidewalks, they would need that right away.
So, yes, they put sidewalks in on the streets.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be further down the line.
Yeah, but
I would say that's in
Is
no
that
way
in the
imminent.
budget?
It's not likely to happen for the foreseeable future. Unless the neighborhood decides it's a priority and they want to pay for it.
Right, that would be really pricey, right.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the applicant?
No.
Thank you, Ms.
Thanks.
Ms. Newhouse, did you have anything further? If so, please approach the microphone.
Just want to say, I totally understand why you're doing this. And if I think I would even be like much more okay with it if people weren't like parking back to back to back to back to back vehicles. That way you had room to veer if someone was coming, but right now there's only room for one car to go through. So I don't know if this is the place for a no parking sign or what, but like that would make me feel better. Because I understand, I really do, so.
Thank you. Okay. All right, is there anyone else who'd like to speak against the application or waiver? Okay, with that, at 7 o'clock, I close the public portion. Corner lots. Every time, corner lots. 2 front yards, no backyards, half a backyard, maybe a side yard. God invented corner lots to punish us. give us work. Okay, so I think we see these all the time, pretty commonly, and one of the most common ones, I think, is trying to get a fence with backyard regulations into a front yard, right? Or even a side yard fence into the front yard. So I'm not surprised to see this, and I think the amended plan that has it drop back from the facade of the house makes a whole lot of sense as far as keeping this the backyard. I was kind of concerned, frankly, with the blocking off the sight line coming
Yeah.
down the cul-de-sac.
Agreed.
Every time I go to my parents' house and have to go around a curve there, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
So I'm always a little bit sensitive to those. But I think the biggest challenge is these trees. I think the applicant is probably planning to do something about the bush tree things by the street, and that'll hopefully alleviate some of that
Well, if we
pain.
could keep the fence, clear so
Right.
that there's line sight and.
Yeah, so if that fence comes from, well, you're never gonna have line of sight. If they build that fence, you'll lose line of sight, right? Whether it's 4 feet or 6 feet, right?
Well,
If they build it solid.
If it's solid.
Right, then you would
So-
you would definitely lose line of sight, either way, whether it's 4 feet or 6 feet tall.
I agree with the fence and I understand the concern for having children and dogs,
Mhm.
because we want to keep everybody safe, but we also want to keep neighbors safe.
Right, I agree. So, seeing that the revised plan has it coming back off of the facade, seeing as this is essentially the backyard of the house, seeing as, in my mind at least, they've, mitigated the problem, and they're never gonna solve it. Somebody mentioned, putting up a no parking sign, we do not have that power as a board, so, barring something like that happening, they're never gonna fully solve people flying down, especially down the cul-de-sacs, that's always gonna happen every now and then, and people parking along the streets. I have no problem with either variance, that basically because this lot is the backyard, I don't see how they can actually have, effective use of their backyard, in another way.
Well, they can have effective use of the backyard, but I don't know about a solid fence.
Is there a regulation with the city of Riverside of the opaqueness, 20%, 50%, or 50%?
So we've seen things like picket, Kentucky board, some of those types of fences that people have proposed.
And then they would have to put up some type of maybe chicken wire or whatever.
That's correct.
On the inside.
Yes.
Or whatever kind of fencing on the inside for dogs and.
Yes.
And stuff like that as well. I've had to do that before too, so, small little sheep, I understand.
Yeah.
So,
I
Okay.
think agreeing to cut the basketball hoop just a little bit, the pad just a little bit more to make lenience for setting that is a good idea.
Keep the fence within the
Keep the
10-foot
fence
right away, yeah, I
within the
agree.
10 feet.
So it sounds like you may be angling to approve with that as a condition.
Correct.
That and keeping that fence okay.
Not.
Not, right.
not completely solid. Yeah.
All right. So do I hear a motion then?
Well, here.
Or more discussion?
On the same token, I don't know, even though they're offering to even cut down their pad, why should they have to cut down their pad? What would be the reason to, I mean.
I don't think they should.
I don't think they should
I
either.
don't, I'm prepared to move that we approve both the variance and waiver.
Up to 50% opaque?
No, full opacity.
He's saying just whatever.
To
they're asking
give them the
for.
waiver for the solid board fence and to give them the variance to have the 6-foot fence. It's a backyard.
And to let it encroach within the right of way.
Mm-hmm,
Yes. Well, yeah, I guess so.
yeah.
It would encroach into the right
As
of way.
opposed to what he said, he could put a post on either side of the concrete and just float the fence across.
Right, and to be fair, I mean, if the city comes back and tells him he has to do it, then our approval of that, of the variance and waiver would allow him then to press, with that as a plan.
Mhm.
And if the city lets him, stay in that right away, then, I guess I'm proposing that we approve as presented.
So you would, the motion would have to be the modified plan.
Yes, right, right,
That's what the board decides.
okay.
And would that motion definitely state that everything in that right of way, the trees and shrubs, would be totally removed?
Yes. So that is a condition we could put on it,
I think so. If we're
And I
gonna-
think
if
they,
we're
they
gonna go
mentioned
that
that
way
they were
with the
taking it
fence,
down
yeah.
anyways.
But just to put it in the
And you're gonna
variance.
allow them to put the privacy fence up? That's what you.
That's what I intend
That's
to
what you're-
make a motion for shortly.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think, we need to meet each other halfway
On what?
on the fence, being clear, like a chain link fence.
Like,
Like
meeting the opacity requirement,
A
or,
4-foot chain
whatever
link
it's called.
fence.
Okay,
Uh,
well, not chain link.
Yeah, chain links aren't permitted in the front yard.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
So, you're walking us
Okay.
into another trap, Lisa.
Okay, I'm walking you into another
But
trap.
there could be another solution,
I'm
right?
so
A
sorry.
picket fence or the, what is it, Kentucky something, like,
Yeah.
there are the other options that they could have that meet the, that would not require a waiver.
Okay.
Right.
How could we do this so that, and we're not here to vote in, those bumper stops, you know how you slow down?
Yeah, you can't do that.
Oh, any kind of traffic easing?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we don't have that power,
We don't
unfortunately.
have that power.
Right. Okay, so with this discussion, regarding the variance for BZA case 24-002 at 5900 Helenwood, I move that we accept the variance as amended, with the amended plan, with the condition that they remove the bushes, the vegetation, I suppose, between the basketball court and the street. Yes, that are along Yorktown Court. Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Who seconded you?
Oh,
Me.
no one.
Oh, yeah, that's, okay. That's what I was
Skip
waiting
that.
for. Mr. Timbrook. All right, so I have Mr. Timbrook,
Yes.
Mr. Cron,
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter,
No.
Mr. Walling.
Yes.
Motion carries. And then regarding the waiver request, 24-002 at 5900 Helenwood, based on staff report evidence testimony, I move that we approve the waiver
Oh, that's for the 4-foot.
for the opaque, for the solid board privacy fence in the front yard. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Timbrook,
Yes.
Mr. Cron,
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter,
No.
Mr. Walling.
No.
All right, so before I hear another motion on what we might do with the waiver, let's have some more discussion here. So we've approved the plan to put a fence, a 6-foot fence, right, in the front yard that follows the new modified plan, right? And right now, we are split on the waiver for them to actually have a solid board fence versus a fence that meets the, I guess, requirements, I'll call it, right? And so, privacy fence requirements, whatever, right?
Am I allowed to say anything at this point or no?
Not yet, we got it closed, sorry, thank you. So I guess going back to kind of why I'm in favor of both the variance and the waiver is treating this like the backyard. And what I don't understand the difference between is what we've approved to allow the fence as modified, where we bring it back, where we gave the condition that they remove the vegetation between the fence there and the street on Yorktown Court, opening up a line of sight versus whether we have the 50% see-through fence available. I'm not understanding the difference between those two.
Because I don't think those bushes are the problem. I mean, the bushes are not they're not obstructing the line of sight that she's talking about. She's talking about in between.
Nye, can you please pull back up that picture? I think that might be helpful.
So she's talking about where you can see that White House.
Yep.
Okay, if you run your finger all the way down, you can see where the cars are entering. So that's the line of sight that she's talking about. She's not talking about where the bushes are.
Right. I guess I'm saying that line of sight moves down the street. Yes, you are correct. Like right now, that line of sight is further up the street. You can see it from further back.
So-
I'm contesting you still can see it from before you get around that
Well,
curve.
but if you put-
take out the
If
vegetation
you
there.
put the privacy fence straight across to where that basketball hoop is, and you have a
Mhm.
6-foot privacy fence behind that fence,
Yes.
you're not gonna see anything. You will not be able to see
Well, you,
any vehicles or anybody coming.
Yeah.
It's just, it's not,
See, you'll have that gap though there where right now all we can see is tree.
all you can see is tree and a van, right? And if you've got an 8-foot to 10-foot right-of-way there, your line of sight is not as large, not as long, but I don't have that large along a sight on a lot of roads anyways,
Right.
wherever I go. And I traveled last year 40,000 miles for work, so.
okay, but when you hit
We're
that-
looking at if we've got that 6-foot fence and it's gonna be just on the inside of where that bush is somewhere.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can understand that if you had a sidewalk. If you had a sidewalk going around that curve, then the pedestrians are not in danger. But there are no sidewalks in that cul-de-sac. They have to,
Right.
they have to walk with strollers
Mhm.
and wheelchairs and whatever they're gonna take their daily walk with in the middle of the road.
Yes. Right, I
But
guess
they-
I
and
just.
then they can't see
But if the,
who's coming
if
around.
the sidewalk was there, it'd be right where those trees are right now. And so I
But
guess
they
that's
would-
what I'm arguing, is that you
But they would
can,
be on the
see around
sidewalk,
it.
and they wouldn't be in the street, where cars are
Well,
just, tur-
That is true,
Mhm.
but we can't put a sidewalk for them. Like, they have to go around that park van no matter what, when they come down the
They
cul-de-sac.
do, but at least they have
If
some
anything,
visibility.
the trees being removed make it so their line of sight is closer to the van than it is now. So if you put in the fence and take the vegetation out, then they will be able to then have that line of sight closer to when they have to go around, whatever cars are parked there, than they currently do. It's definitely, there's no perfect solution here because I don't think it's perfect as it is right now.
Yeah.
Because you can't see coming down that cul-de-sac. I mean, I
Yeah,
am sympathetic to
well-
coming around curves because.
And for whatever reason, they're speeding down there, I have
Well.
no idea. But,
Police chief isn't here tonight.
Would it be reasonable to accept the waiver as a 4-foot fence, solid? That meaning changing the variance? Just discussion. And I'm sure we'll hear back from the owner again.
Yeah, let me think about that for a second, because I think that basically removes the need for the variance.
Correct. It just addresses a waiver of the 4-foot solid fence. And with the owner on the cul-de-sac with that concern, at least a 4-foot fence, if you're walking, you're going to see over it.
yes,
opposed to a
as
6-foot
opposed to
fence.
a 6-foot fence.
You're also coming downhill though, too, where you're gonna be raised up as you come down around that curve.
Well, it's not that much of a hill. It's not like,
Yeah. Not
It's a hill.
not until you get around there does it start to really go up.
Yeah. I just think you open up the line of sight when you take out those trees and bushes there, and no matter what fence exists then kind of around like the basketball court there.
I think
Um,
a 4-foot fence would be better than a 6-foot fence.
That's not meet us halfway.
Yeah, I just don't think I don't think that's. I don't know if the 4-foot fence actually is any better or worse than the 6-foot fence. I think it's roughly equal if they're gonna be solid board.
Well, that, yes.
I don't think it would make sense to be okay with it being solid board and it being 4 feet. That, I'm not tracking the logic there.
Well,
On the sight line, because you're still solidly blocking off in that middle portion.
yes, you are.
Is there, hypothetically speaking,
Sure.
is there any type of code for vegetation height? Or setback?
I wish there was, but there's not, and that's why we're rewriting our code.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. I just opened up a can of worms.
So-
So there we go, right? As a-
Yeah, people are supposed to
hypothetically-
get permission to plant in the right-of-way, but
You have
this
to get-
is
you
a
have to get
previous
permission.
property owner.
You do have to get permission to plant in the right of way because of that 10 feet. Again, those are older than probably 10 years old. Again, I get it. If there was vegetation there, you can't see around it. Even if those bushes are pushing 20 years old, I don't know, it's possible, the way they are and how tall they are. And the possibility of having vegetation all the way around the property on that backside, you wouldn't be able to see it anyways, and there's no code to say that you couldn't do it besides being in the variance of the setback of 10 feet. So, again, I think you're still I'm cool with the 6 feet, the solid, all the way around it, and you remove that front bush, you've got a clear line of sight now along the road, and then it would be up to the city to decide about no parking and speed bumps.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I agree. Not far from you there. Okay. All right, so recapping a little bit, so we've approved the variance for them to have a 6-foot fence. As of now, that would have to meet the requirements of being 50% see-through. One motion has already, I don't know, tied, drawn, stayed on the opacity. Not hearing much movement and kind of thoughts on where that would land a second time. Do I have another motion on the floor regarding the variant, or regarding the waiver? Because I definitely heard someone talk about denying it, so. That's why I'm wondering.
I mean, they have choices on what kind of fence,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
They can put up,
Yeah.
and they can put up a 6-foot fence.
Yep, we've agreed to that.
So you have agreed to that.
We've agreed to treat it like a backyard, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, that's your corner lot, you know, that's, I get it.
That's what we got all the time. Most of our cases seems like a corner lot.
I know it doesn't have, I just wish it was safer for the pedestrians, and I don't know, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
me
I
too.
get it
Their
too.
concern is legitimate,
They're-
and I.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I just don't think we can solve that,
No.
no matter how we end up ruling today. I think no matter what, they're still gonna have trouble going around that curve. Still gonna be dangerous, people are still gonna go fast around it, you still are gonna have some kind of limit to your kind of line of sight coming around it, whether that's cars on the street, the bush, the fence, or all three, some combination.
And I guess in reconsidering that a 50% opaque is going to be the call of who is going to go out and verify that it's 50% opaque.
It won't be me.
It won't be me.
No.
So we're still back even at 50% opaque.
Yes.
I'm starting to think that the line of sight's still going to be an issue no matter what.
Right.
So,
Right, which is why I wanted to include the condition that they take out the vegetation there, so that we still maintain some part of that view. Okay. So hearing that there may be some sympathies for my previous stance, I'd like to resubmit the motion that we approve the waiver BZA case 24 triple lot 2 of 5900 Hallenwood based on staff report evidence and testimony heard today. Do I have a second?
Wait,
Well, wait, point of
wait,
order.
on the waiver, you're stating the same one that just originally was a 2-2?
Yes.
Made it a fail? So the
Unless
only
you're-
people that can bring it back are the ones that failed it.
So it would have to come from.
You would have to state it.
Understood.
motion so moved.
Second,
All right, give me just a second.
of course.
Okay,
Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
okay, Mr. Walling,
Yes.
Mr. Timbrook,
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter,
No.
Mr. Cron.
Yes.
Motion carries. All right. Okay, so with that, we've approved then the modified plan and then the waiver to permit the solid board privacy fence in the front yard. Okay,
And I will be in touch tomorrow about next steps.
Right, so,
Yeah.
so we could build a 6-foot fence. Okay, and I really, really appreciate you guys, taking the time to talk it all out and figure it out. And I'm very grateful because my kid won't be jumping over a 4-looking fence, and I'm, your safety is what's important to me. Like with the traffic so fast, for the more secure, I'm so happy. So I really appreciate what you guys do.
Great, and hopefully there are other options to keep the community safe.
Yeah.
And I suggest we bring that up to the
Get a lot of
city.
sites once we take out all those bushes, those bushes are huge.
We've been there since 2004, and they were there when we moved. So that is 20 years.
Okay, well, with that, we'll move on to zoning administrator discussion topics.
So I have been trying to work in the background. I know we've been in communication, Marty, about the online training, so I just wanted to get an update. It should be those 10 courses available for you all to work on them online. They are 10 courses that are for people who are sitting it's called Planning Commission, but it is for those who sit on boards and commissions dedicated to those citizen planners. So that should be up and running now. So I just wanted to give everybody an update on that. There'd be some other trainings that are available. There's one, if you're interested, on multimodal transportation. This will also be open to the public for anybody who's listening on October 21st. So the date, that's the date, but the time, when I have that, I will let you know when and where. And also, the Sinclair training will be on December 2nd. That is an annual one that is hosted by the local American Planning Association chapter. That is all-day training. They provide a little breakfast and lunch, and it's different sessions that are hosted. So, yeah.
I have one item as well, if I may.
Please.
Yep.
Especially since we have an audience. Postcards went out a couple weeks ago for the open house that we're hosting at Mad River Schools for the Woodman Corridor Safe Streets for All project. So we're trying to encourage as many folks as possible to either come to that event or participate online. I had a great discussion with the task force that's putting that together today. What you can expect is when you go into the gym, we're going to have a couple of tables that'll be about 16 feet long with a map of the entire corridor. And we're going to invite participants basically to put pins or Post-its on different parts of Woodman from Springfield all the way down to 35 with what do you like, what do you don't like, what do you want to see along different stretches of the corridor. And then they'll take all that feedback and incorporate what they can into the design that we hope to have done by the end of the year. So if you can't come that night, there is an online component that'll prompt you to do the same things. I'm sure we'll have some more social media posts about it as well, but all are welcome. Thank you.
Wonderful, thanks. Okay, on to matters by the board. So I have one matter, so so this is my last meeting at the Board of Zoning Appeals. I have accepted a job in another city and will be leaving the wonderful city of Riverside, Ohio. I want to thank everyone here, as well as all past chairs, past members of the board, and the good people of the city of Riverside for allowing me to serve on the Board of Zoning Appeals and recently as the chair of the Board of Zoning Appeals. It's been a great experience. I've learned a lot, come a long way. I think Naya can attest to that. So definitely have learned a lot in this job and have loved serving you guys in this capacity. So thank you very much. But also then I think it bears mentioning we're always looking for volunteers to sit on all of our boards and commissions across the city. It's a great experience to come and to give a couple hours. Sometimes less. I think the last couple of years we've had less and less BZA cases as our staff has really made that a point of emphasis, I suppose. But definitely consider giving your time to a city board, city commission. It's absolutely worth your time. Any other matters by the board? Okay.
We just want to thank you, Reese.
You're welcome.
And we wish you the best in your new endeavors.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, with that, at 7:24, I hereby call the Board of Zoning Appeals adjourned.
Thank you very much, you guys. Thanks.
What city is that?
What city?
Washington, D.C.
Are you